Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another Quips and Thwips Spider-Man podcast. I'm here this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about with the Carnage trailer coming out and everything. We're going to talk a little bit about the Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer. We're going to talk a little bit about the what I call the Holy Trinity of Spider-Man, which is the hero, anti-hero, villain, which is Spider-Man's the hero, Venom's the anti-hero, and Carnage is obviously the supervillain. And I really like the way that those three kind of all involved in one another and all encapsulate one another. The furthest two, which of course would be Carnage and Spider-Man, they really don't have too much in common besides Venom and Eddie Brock. But just gonna check and make sure things are running nice and okay on the stream, and if anyone else is so please don't be afraid to engage in the chat. That's what this is. So it's just to talk about Spider-Man, and we'll go for as long as we can. Um, so some things I just wanted to kind of discuss is, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about the origin of uh, more or less Carnage. Everybody knows the origin of Venom, obviously. He was on a space shuttle mission out in orbit from an asteroid and came back to Earth. No, that's not the real origin in the comic books of Venom. It's actually in Secret Wars, when Spidey was at the Secret Wars on the Battle Planet or Battle World. He got the symbiote there and then brought it back to Earth and actually had the symbiote for a while, and then came into and then eventually found out that it was corrupting him and yada yada, using the bells, and that part is all real from the cartoons and everything, using the sonic waves to separate him, and found Eddie Brock, became Venom. Not that long afterward, actually, because Venom debuted in the early 300s of the Amazing Spider-Man. Carnage came along in issue number 360, was Carnage's first appearance. And of course, the first book being 361, which we're going to talk about here today. And I'm yawning because I'm apparently a poor host. So yeah, Carnage is the spawn of Spider-Man, or Spider-Man. God, Carnage is the spawn of Venom, and I feel like, I mean, they were always leading up to this because originally when they made Venom, he was supposed to be like the antithesis of Spider-Man, but it seemed like they kind of wrote themselves into a corner with Venom, because Venom wanted to be a hero, but he hated Spider-Man. So the one of the main things that they had to do is they really had to go unrelenting balls to the wall, and that's when we got Carnage. And so one of the things about Carnage in the comic books is that he's one of the bloodiest characters ever. I mean, I remember reading Maximum Carnage when I was younger and thinking to myself, "Holy cow!" People getting maimed and killed. Carnage threatening babies. Like, it was, it was pretty. It was a lot for my teenage brain to take in, because I'm thinking, this is a comic book. Good morning, Zam. I appreciate you stopping by. I know it's pretty much the middle of the night for you, where you're at. I think it's like 4 a.m. for you right now. So I appreciate you stopping by. But if you have anything you want to chime in with, please be my guest. So with my experiences with Carnage, and actually in more recent history, has been the Red Goblin, which is Norman Osborn had the Carnage symbiote, and he called himself the Red Goblin. I think this was in issue number. It was either issue number 700 or 800. I want to say it was 800. I don't know why. I don't yawn at all, and then I get on here and I start streaming and I yawn. I don't know why. I can't help myself. So anyway, So talking a little bit about Cletus Cassidy, I mean, he's your typical sociopathic murderer. The worst person you want to get a symbiote to. And it's really weird because a sociopath like Carnage, it made no sense that Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy were in the same cell together. But I mean, comics, they're not going to explain it very well. so so yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of go over a little bit of some of the stuff that I know about Carnage and the odds and ends of that. I had it here. Man, I am sucking today. But yeah, I mean, and a lot of my first experiences with Carnage was Maximum Carnage, um, the video game, Maximum Carnage, and then kind of seeing him in man, seeing him in the video game, and then investigating the comic books, and then I remember the SNES game with Spider and Venom. So, do the new Spider games let you play as Venom or Carnage, as in the ones for PS4 or PS5? I do not know. Well, I mean, I've played Spider-Man, the PS4 Spider-Man, and you don't even get the black costume in that one. Yeah, you don't even get the black costume in that one, because I think they were saving it for the new. Oh, here it is. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just making myself look dumb. I remember Carnage being like Parasite from DC. Parasite's a lot different than Carnage. Parasite is in the cartoon he was, yes, because Carnage went around sucking out life energy from people for Baron Mordo. Because they couldn't kill anybody in the cartoon show. So the way they worked around that was, yeah, he would drain the energy by touching you and everything like that. So that would be, that in the cartoon. That's why Carnage is just a terrible. Unless you're going to do like an animated movie that's rated R, Carnage is a terrible cartoon villain. I know that they love doing popular characters, but I mean he just you couldn't do Carnage justice on a kids show, period. Like you cannot. And that's kind of where I'm getting at with the movie and the trailers, because I already did my trailer review. I'm not really going to go through it again. Like if somebody new was here to talk with me about it, I'd go over it again with them. But I mean, you've everyone if you've on this channel, NerdTube, if you're here for the first time, you can see my trailer reaction, and I pretty much give all of my reactions to that trailer. But talking about uh, Carnage in regards to Parasite, yeah, in the cartoon he was like that. Um, Unfortunately, as I said, you just can't do him justice in animated form unless it's an animated movie. All right, so let's go over a little bit of. So obviously, we know that Carnage is Cletus Cassidy. He's a sociopath. He's, just he's just a murderous scum. I think he had killed like 10 people before he had even gotten to jail. Um, so he's the perfect character for the Carnage character. I mean, they made it picture perfect, if that's what they were going for. So his early life is he was, Carnage was orphaned, and um yes, Bandit, Zam is awake, because Zam is a dedicated bloke who won't let me fly solo on this, even if I won't let him on this stream, because it's 4 a.m. Zam's probably half dead right now. But so yeah, so I mean, Cleese Cassidy was an orphan growing up, through going through orphanages and foster homes and stuff like that. Just becoming a messed up dude. I mean, completely and utterly messed up. The worst person the worst person you could. Well, ZMI, even though you're in bed, I appreciate you being here. But the worst person you can give the symbiote to. Okay, so I kind of want to look over some stuff here. So with his powers and abilities, I mean, Carnage's symbiote is actually different, and they even note this in the Carnage comic, like the original, like Carnage three-parter, where Carnage debuted in Amazing Spider-Man number 361, 362, and 363. That because Carnage was able to fashion weapons. He didn't just do the hand thing, and didn't he could use spikes and everything like that, and really sharp objects. And so he really didn't do a lot of because even Spider-Man at one point in the comic book was like, "Oh, how can I use this?" And then it just disintegrated, and Spidey's like, "Oh, so he can throw these objects and kill me, but I can't use them back on him." And he said, "That's great. That's real fair." So I mean, a lot of his powers, and it's changed over the years, but a lot of his powers derive from the symbiote mixing with his blood, and just something happening there. Um, and I'm not going to get into the whole null, uh, whatever their alien race is, the null god or whatever it's called, because apparently the symbiotes are an alien race, and one of their people is the null god, and it's some super powerful god of the, yeah, yada yada. It's too convoluted. I'm not even getting into it. So yeah. So here on the fandom beast wiki, this is just what I'm going off of. I mean, I've looked it over. It looks pretty standard from what I'm seeing. I mean, so his power grid is, they have him listed as an intelligence of 2, strength of 5, speed of 3, durability of 5, energy projection of 4, which I don't know why his energy projection would be a 4, because he doesn't shoot any lasers or any kind of energy. It's just symbiote. And fighting skills 2, which actually I kind of think that should be a little bit higher too. It also says here that he's immune to the Ghost Rider's penance stare, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I am also too, Zam. I am looking forward to Andy Serkis being the director of Venom 2. Let There Be Carnage. I really feel like, Andy Serkis always surprises me. Like, this guy that just mocapped for Gollum in the Lord of the Rings, and then he just blows it away as an actor. Yeah, Zam's tuning into my podcast as a way to keep himself asleep. Trust me. But so uh, Andy Serkis, he surprises me as an actor, and then he's doing this directing, and it looks amazing. Like I really really am excited for this movie. I'm not gonna lie. Um, so I really want this to be a good movie, and I like the first Venom movie. I thought it was very good. Um, but yeah, so going, with the Carnage, he's immune to the Ghost Rider's penance stare, um, which kind of makes sense. I mean, I want to say, like, it's kind of like Venom and Carnage being immune to Carnage's symbiote, immune to his spider sense. And yes, Woody Harrelson is a world class actor that can do anything. You are absolutely correct. But and I think he's going to be great as Cletus Cassidy. That wig, oh, that wig that he had at the end of the first Venom movie, just no, no, no. Although it should be nice to, like, at the beginning of this movie, it should show him, like, going in for a haircut, like before he goes on death row, and like have them cutting his hair so that he looks like it was in the trailer. Sideshow Bob looking guy. You like the wig in the trailer? I hope so, because I don't know about that curly haired wig, man. That was a bit too comic book on the nose. I don't know if that was gonna work. Um. So yeah. But um, like Carnage and Venom are immune to Spidey's spider sense. I feel like Carnage is also immune to the penance stare in this sense. Just whatever kind of spiritual or extra dimensional bullfuckery is happening in with that, makes, for some reason, it makes them immune to those things. Because I there's got to, that spider sense is just way too weird. So, I mean, there's been a lot of things that he's been involved with over the years. I mean, and then they've really kicked up the whole symbiote thing in the Avengers and everything over the past couple years. I mean, they've done the invasion of the symbiotes storyline, Access, where actually Venom became a good guy, because it's the Access where like all the good guys became bad and all the bad guys became good. He was pretty prominent in that. Um, Carnage USA. I don't remember that. I was trying to remember that. Um, but yeah, the big one that everybody thinks of is Maximum Carnage, where he teams up with Shrike, Demo Goblin, Carrion, and Doppelganger, and just it becomes, yes, Carnage better live at the end of it. I'm sure he will, because they're building up for Maximum Carnage in Venom 3, and one of the Spider-Men will be in there. I'm pretty sure it'll be Tom Holland, but um, so like Maximum Carnage. I mean, it got the video game. It was one of the biggest team ups of all time. It was one of the. I mean, obviously there was Infinity War or the Infinity Gauntlet and everything like that beforehand, Secret Wars. But for Spider-Man, this was like the big money making crossover. I mean, this was just humongous. Trying to look up all the names here of like everybody. I mean, you had guys like Deathlock and Black Cat and Cloak and Dagger and Deathlock, Captain America, Iron Fist. Who Nelly? There were so many people in this thing, and they interchanged in and out. Oh, I think Nova was in it. I think Nova was in it at one point. I think Morbius, the Living Vampire, was in it. It was there was just so much going on in this, and I mean it back when you're younger. I mean, it's like this big splash page like awesomeness going on, a little bit like the Revenge of the Sinister Six that I talked about with Vance last time. Big splash pages and all these team ups and throwing as many characters in the Marvel universe as you could at Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's a freaking bomb. And yeah, and it was a gore fest, because they were trying to track down um Carnage and his crew, and they were just having a hard time tracking him. So, I mean, eventually it just came to a head, and eventually it just came down to, of course, the Trinity, which would be Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage. And, I mean, it started as it ended, that, and all this stuff happened pretty much within a couple years of one another. Carnage's inception, and then Cletus Cassidy's inception, and then the uh, the actual Carnage three-parter, then Maximum Carnage, and then I mean, and Venom and Carnage were just all through the early '90s. It was unreal how much they were in. If you go back and look, it was unreal how much Carnage was in those. Okay, so I'm gonna bring. So I mean, another big storyline that he was involved in, that I was pretty pretty surprised with. As I said, it's the symbiotes have really in the past couple years been a big thing in the Marvel universe. Punjabi cage match. Favorite type of WWE match, the Punjabi cage match. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah. Um, So, I mean, in this movie, what's going to happen is, Venom's going to get his butt kicked by Carnage, and then eventually Venom will come out on top somehow, some way. I don't know how. Maybe he'll team up with Morbius. Ooh, Maybe we'll get some of that first Sony sweet crossover. It'll be a surprise. So yeah, I mean it. Carnage is definitely one of the greatest villains in Marvel history, and all whether he's been abused or not over the past years as a villain, you can't deny. Like when you think of Spider-Man villains, only a couple in the secular circles, only a couple come. Honestly, I think he's more notable in the secular circles than even the Green Goblin. Maybe since the movies, not so much. Maybe the Green Goblin more so. Like Goblin. I mean, but you got like Goblin, Ock, Venom, Carnage. Like those are the big four of Spider-Man villains that everybody thinks of when you talk about Spider-Man villains. At least that's for me. The only thing crossing over in the Sony's MCU is Spider-Man. So you don't know that though, because Morbius might be. And if you think about it, if it has something to do with Morbius's with Cletus Cassidy's blood, with the symbiote mixing with his blood and yada yada, you don't know. It might. It might be. Maybe Morbius will show up and do some kind of blood trickery or something. I doubt it, but maybe. Um, I I don't know. Woody Harrelson is a great pick for this one, though. I really do like Woody Harrelson and uh, as Cletus Cassidy. I originally thought, man, he's really old for this, and yeah, he's up there in age, but because I always saw Cletus Cassidy as like a mid-30s guy. But still, Woody Harrelson just knocks just the look and the feel and the way he's just great. He's just great. Anyway, so I brought some. I've already talked about it. I brought some comics to share today, and that would be the Amazing Spider-Man 361 part. That's Carnage Part One. 362, which is where Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage team up. Well, Spider-Man and Venom team up against Carnage, and then the conclusion. So the really interesting thing about these comics is that they're broken up into the three serious parts. The first part is, as it is on the front cover, is just really Carnage, Spider-Man trying to track down Cletus Cassidy Carnage, but he doesn't know at the beginning. He doesn't know that Carnage. He thinks it's Venom. You are correct. Sony does not have a vision of the MCU. You are correct. And that's why I'm afraid the Spider Verse is going to be a hot mess, even if Marvel Studios is involved. But in this one, it's mostly in the beginning of this issue. Spider-Man is trying to track down Venom because he doesn't know about Carnage. Well, he doesn't know that the Cletus Cassidy's Carnage, but there is talk about somebody called Carnage, and he's thinking it's Venom under a different alias or something. Who knows? And by the end, he actually does detective work and figures it out, and he's like, this is not Eddie, like this is somebody else, like this is, and then he tracks it down and he goes to Cletus Cassidy's old orphanage and goes in, and there's Cletus butt ass naked in front of a fire, and he turns into Carnage and tries to kill Spider-Man as well as some cops. So the great thing is that so at this point Spider-Man realizes he cannot beat Carnage on his own, and God help him, he has to bring Venom in to beat him. And so that's where the second part starts in at. It's actually where Spidey left Venom at on a deserted island after he thought he killed Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and he's apparently on this deserted island just enjoying the fact that Spider-Man is dead. Little cheesy in my opinion, but okay. Human Torch goes with them because Venom's weak against fire as well as Sonic's, and he shows up on the beach with that sweet Sonic gun and the Human Torch, and Venom finds out that Spidey's still alive, and he freaks out. He just freaks out and just goes for blood. The Human Torch is trying to stop him. Um, it's actually a pretty good fight. I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty good fight. But um, Venom, he starts to drown the Human Torch, and they break the sonic gun they brought, and it just shows you that Venom, how powerful Venom is, because Venom is still like pretty high up there on the villain chart. Even because he's taken on the Human Torch, which is literally his weakness, and Spider-Man, who had a gun of his weakness, and he's still going. His hatred for Peter was just that much, and so they're fighting, they're fighting, they're fighting. Human Torch almost drowns, and then Spidey basically says, "Look, there's somebody killing innocents out there, and he has a symbiote." And then Venom's like, "I'm listening." So they do the explainer and everything like that, and so Venom agrees to team up with Spider-Man for this one thing to track him down, but after that, all bets are off. So I really thought that was a really fun part where it's like, just Venom, like, dude, Venom is seriously like, I I didn't realize, like, with them teaming up in Maximum Carnage, and I hadn't read these books in years, but with the way Spider-Man was teaming up with the way that Spider-Man was fighting Venom, it, it's a pretty wicked fight. Like, it's pretty brutal to watch. But in the long run, they make up, make out, not really make out. They head back to New York, and then they're in search of Cleus Cassidy, which I don't know why they didn't take the Human Torch, because reason that uh, one would reason that Carnage would also be weak to fire, but okay, it's the Venom and Spidey show. So they finally track down Carnage and they try to fight him, and Carnage just raffle stomps him. I mean, Spider-Man and Venom are they can't team up worth a darn. Um, Carnage goes after a baby, and actually Venom saves the baby because it's an innocent. And you see those cracks in Venom's where where he's an anti-hero, but he's also, killing people, which is not on Spidey's repertoire. But Venom, being the anti-hero that he is, he always wants to save the innocents. So what they do is they keep trying, and eventually they track. Carnage goes and wants J. Jonah Jameson, grabs him, heads to Madison Square Garden. I don't remember what the name of the band was, but it was such a '90s name for it was a made up band, I think, but it was such a '90s band. Which is kind of weird because it got on stage and it's like Carnage, as far as I know, wasn't hurting from the sonic waves from the thing, and so he has J. Jonah hostage. He wants to kill everybody, or he's trying to reason with people's insanity, and he wants people to just start spilling blood. And actually, some of them start to, and that's when Venom and Spider-Man show up and say, no, 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 we're not doing this. So, long story long, fight, 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 fight. Spidey hits they go. I think they go underground and they're fighting for a bit. They go into the subway. They're fighting for a bit. They come back to Madison Square Garden, where Pickle Puss J. Jonah Jameson is. Uh, he's tied up, but they're trying to. I think they get Carnage away from him. Yeah, I think Venom comes through like the bottom of the stage and just go. I mean, I would love to see this. Um, I would love to see this just in like live action. I think it would be amazing. Just like this fight, I would love to see it. And then Spider-Man he turns up the decibels on, of course, the speakers in there, and just starts blaring it. And I mean, of course, both Venom and Carnage are, they're getting in a bad way. They think that the Carnage symbiote is dead because you just see Cletus laying there naked, and so they're thinking that the symbiote is dead, which we all know at this point it's not. But after that, Venom tries to then, after Carnage is dealt with, Venom tries to kill Spider-Man again. I mean, you gotta hand it. The guy has dedication. But then he had Reed Richards and Human Torch as backup. So they apprehend Eddie and they apprehend Carnage. And that's the end of the story. So it's a really good three-parter. It's really very '90s. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's I wouldn't say it's like a good character study of the Spider-Man franchise or anything like that, but it definitely encapsulates this holy trinity of hero, anti-hero, and supervillain. And I really, really enjoyed reading this again because as I haven't read these in years, and now as a wiser adult, maybe using the term very loosely, I feel like that they knew what they were doing back in the 90s when they did this stuff. I mean, the world was not, and they even say it because Mary Jane says, "Why don't you call the Fantastic Four or the Avengers?" And he's like, he's just a serial killer. They're doing world-saving things, and you want me to have them deal with a serial killer like Venom? And this is when he thought it was Venom, Venom doing all the killing at that point. No, he's like, no, I mean, this is me. This is on me. This is my jam. I'm the street level hero, and I'm the one doing this. And it works. I mean, I know he had to bring in the Fantastic Four eventually, but it worked. It worked really well, actually. So that's what I think. One of these. I think that's what this comic in particular. Maybe not even Maximum Carnage encapsulated very well is street level heroics and street level problems. I mean, the Carnage is like the baddest of the bad in respects to like street level criminals. Like he is the worst, but he's no Galactus, and he's no, and he's no Doctor Doom. But by God, he can kill people. Like he can kill people with the best of them. So this is one of Spidey's biggest challenges as Carnage because Spider-Man has that unrelenting hope in humanity that the people are good and that the innocent deserve, the innocent deserve to be protected. And you got Carnage that just totally disregards all of that. And it's a fantastic dynamic between Spidey and Carnage. And even Venom. Like Venom's that stopgap between the two where it's like Venom's like, well, if you're bad, I'm going to eat your brains. But and if you're Spider-Man, I'm going to eat your brains. But he's like even he acknowledges Carnage is bad. Like this is bad, real bad. You see it in Maximum Carnage. You see it in this original, and you've seen it since then because I mentioned the Red Goblin before. That's when Norman Osborn got the Carnage symbiote and became the Red Goblin. Which holy shit, that's probably one of the worst things I've ever heard of in my entire life. Because if there's anyone who is more of a psychopath than Cletus Cassidy, the second runner up has got to be Norman Osborn. So I mean, reading those comic books, and he like infected his grandson Normie, and yeah, it was a nightmare. Like those comics, I remember reading those, going, "Holy shit! This is gonna be a long, long, long road for Spider-Man here because this is." And I think Anti Venom was there, and oh my god, it was just a huge thing. So I see you guys are talking about some wrestling stuff in the chat, and that's fine. But talking about Spidey, I know you're talking about Kali and Cesaro, and that's great. But not really the topic we're on, Bandit. But if you do want to talk a little bit more about Spider-Man, I would appreciate anything you can input. So yeah, so I'm hoping this movie does really well with Venom and Carnage, and then we can get Spidey in the third one, and it'll redeem a little bit of the qualities of some of the lackluster Spider-Man that we've had in all the movies. Let's be real. I mean, the Spider-Man movies. No, it's okay, Bandit. You don't need to apologize. I'm just saying, like, if you can, I'd like for you to, I mean, everybody knows about Spider-Man. Even if you like have questions about the character and you know nothing about it, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of lore there. I'm gonna I want to look here really quick while we're talking about this, and I want to see if I can. All right. What do we? Yeah, I'm just kind of looking up some of the stuff about Prophet of the Void. Ooh. See, this is when a lot of that. Um, this is when a lot of that god, null god, or whatever, just gets into the nightmare. And kind of reading through here. Venom Smash. Gosh, there's just so much they do with these symbiotes. It just aren't very good. Okay, why is Cletus in jail? Is Venom in Venom's ending? Will he break out in Venom 2? Yeah, because it showed it in the trailer. He will. They're gonna give him lethal. It looks like they're gonna give him lethal injection, and then that's what activates the Carnage symbiote, and then he escapes that way. So yeah, that's gonna be a pretty big mess. Actually, it's probably gonna be very. That's another thing about Carnage. It needs to be rated R. Like it needs to be rated R. There's no way you can do Carnage in PG-13. I mean, you could, but it just wouldn't be anything good, anything at all. Um, yeah, I mean, Carnage. I mean, we got a glimpse of what it could be in the trailer when he's like using his tongue and going down the guard's throat. But that's only PG-13 right there. Now, if they show what happens to the guard, that's more. What happens after that. Hey, rated R. That's some Carnage right there. Although it's really funny because in the comics, Carnage really doesn't have a tongue. I don't believe, because Venom does. Carnage really doesn't. But I mean, whatever. Not a big fuss over that. I guess that is pretty much it. I mean, you got. I mean, Venom, Carnage, that whole trinity. Just, I mean, it's the holy trinity of Spider-Man. Over the years, you could argue for Green Goblin, you could argue for Doc Ock, but honestly, I mean, Venom, Carnage, and Spider-Man are the three that everybody kind of has in mind and always has. You know. So yeah. All right. Well, I've talked. I think that's about it for this round of quips and thwips. Um, I was gonna try to have somebody on with me tonight, but it didn't work out, so that's okay. I'm glad I was still able to get on here and talk about Carnage and Venom and stuff like that. And I appreciate that if you are watching this after the recording is done, please don't forget to give us a comment, like, and subscribe if you have not already. And I usually do these every month. But in 2 weeks, I will be back for a highly illogical podcast with hopefully with some friends. And yeah, we'll go from there. So, with all that being said, I appreciate you guys for joining me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.